Welcome back to the 24th floor. With the high school football season right around the corner, we spent the past week visiting practices across the Mid-South. It's hot.
It is.
Yes,
yeah.
We saw which teams are starting to take shape.
Yeah, one thing became pretty clear in the area, and that there's no shortage of storylines this year. There's going to be a lot to talk about. We're talking about new quarterbacks all over the area, so you got to talk about those guys. Talking about teams trying to take the next step. Maybe they didn't have the best season last year and think they can rebound from that. And there's plenty to keep an eye on before we actually kick off the ball.
Yeah, so let's take you inside a few of the practices we visited and show you what stood out. All right, Ruben, one of the biggest storylines we kept running into was at quarterback.
Yes.
Several of the Mid-South's top programs are handling the offense to a new face this fall, including Briarcrest, where junior Caden Dixon, he takes over after the departure of school record setter Hudson Tucker. Now, Dixon, he knows the expectations, but he says the focus inside the locker room hasn't changed.
I would say just a win. First of all, be a leader as a quarterback for my teammates, be a leader in the classroom. And for the team, I would say the main goal is to win the state championship. And so I would just say stay focused. The standard is the standard for the team.
I think the biggest thing I took away from that was the standard is the standard. I like that. And that's what I asked them a lot because, Briarcrest is one of our more distinguished private schools. They win in everything.
Yeah.
They won in basketball. They went far in football. They're a really good baseball team. So for him, losing a guy like Hudson Tucker, it's next man up. You would sometimes think when you're changing things over, there's a little bit more grace, but they know that when they take the field, they're probably going to get a team's best shot.
Yeah, so we always say it takes what it takes, right? Like, you want to win, it takes what it takes. So let's not sugarcoat or gloss over the fact that Caden Dixon is extremely talented.
Yes.
Extremely
Just
talented.
a junior.
Yes, coming over from Nashville to play at Briarcrest. Obviously, I believe he was at Briarcrest when he was younger.
He was.
Right, and so then went to Nashville. Then when the opening came, when Hudson Tucker, he decided to come back and finish out at Briarcrest. I'm sure they welcomed him with open arms. The guy's extremely talented. He's got great size for a quarterback. He's got a massive arm. He can throw that thing. And so there is no drop-off. There shouldn't be any drop-off. No drop-off expected at all. And so the idea that the standard is true, but it's also easier to hold that when you bring in a 3, 4, 5-star guy who's going to be able to hold your standard. They're not starting fresh with some guy who don't know how to throw the ball.
And one thing I like about Caden is you might get this perception of him based on kind of like how he markets himself on social media, but when you talk to him in person, he's very humble, and he doesn't try to be flashy at all. He sounds way older than what he is. When I found out he was a junior, I thought he was a senior.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, this kid still got another year regardless of what happens. So I kind of like that about him.
Well, so unfortunately, when you're trying to establish yourself and work on your recruiting and all that stuff, social media has to become this me spotlight.
Yeah.
It has to. That's just the way it works.
In everything.
In everything. And so when guys like that are trying to, keep their name hot, because really it's just name and face recognition. When you're trying to keep your name hot, you have to be that way on social media, even though if that's not who you really are in person. And so I never let social media gauge how I think a person is till I meet them in person. And so
Me too.
I do think that his background is going to fit really well with Briarcrest, and his ability to play football is going to actually give them another element that they really didn't have that much last year, because Hudson Tucker is more of a pocket passer.
Yeah.
He would get out when he had to, but that wasn't his,
That wasn't his bread and butter.
It wasn't his bread and butter. And Caden Dixon can run, and he's big, and you're going to have to, a corner's not taking that guy down. A linebacker has to come get that dude. And so I think it does allow Briarcrest to open up the field in ways they couldn't in the last couple of years.
I look at that as almost like Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix. I know I make that comparison with me and Ruben with the Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix thing, but
he's the young and I'm the old, is what I'm saying.
But Michael Penix, but I mean, certainly high expectations over at Briarcrest. And speaking of high expectations, another program we visited isn't just replacing the quarterback, but it's looking to build on one of the best seasons in school history. Now, not every program is defined by who lines up under center. Some teams build their identity on the culture they create. I know we talk about that a lot on this show, and year after year, Middle College continues to do just that. When we stopped by practice, head coach Lenora Staples told us the lessons his players learn go far beyond the final score.
I mean, football teaches the game of life, right? Teaches about character, integrity, working hard, getting out here, getting after it, being determined to accomplish your goals.
Now, Ruben, I know you'll appreciate this. I think that's why coaches love the game, because everybody wants to win, but Coach Staples is talking about putting young men first. So I know you can appreciate that.
Yeah, I always tell people at the end of the day, only one team gets to win state.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're saying that we didn't win state and that was a failure, even though you had a great season, you had a 10-win season or a 9-win season, or let's say you had a 7-win season, but all your kids graduated and you had a handful of kids go play college somewhere, get an education for free, that's ultimately what athletics is all about. We always say that sports teaches life lessons, and so
camaraderie.
And football is one of the leaders in that. So I've never thought that you should gauge success solely by winning state championships.
Yeah.
I've never thought that. Not at the high school level. Professional level is different, right? You're a pro, you're trying to win the championship. But at the high school level, and even at the college level, I don't necessarily agree.
Me too. That's why I said if OSU wins the conference, I'm good. Win the Big 12, we all good, baby.
Well, then that means that you should go along with my idea of having a sub-national championship game.
Well,
that's a whole other conversation. So yes, I really like what Coach had to say, because I agree with that 1,000%, that it's about building young men and women in different sports and helping them be better prepared for life.
And programs like Middle College, they keep competing year after year. That's why I think that they're scratching on the surface.
Yeah,
they've been scratching on the surface
right?
so long to win the state title. I don't know. I feel like this might be the year that they do it.
So I haven't had a chance to dig into their roster yet.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, they are a small class, like Class 1A, and I know you pay a lot of attention to 6A.
Well, it's just more the matter of, like, the smaller the class, the less big guns you need, right? You're in 6A, you need big guns at several positions to match and win. If you get to that smaller classes, you don't need as many big guns. So it's really just going to be a matter of how many big dogs he's got that are playmakers that establish themselves early in the season that can lead them to that. Because you're right, they're competitive every year, but a lot of times, man, turning that corner is about having those one or two guys that can just go make a play.
And I know something, you alluded to it in our Memphis football segment about culture, and winning, basically for them, is the byproduct of establishing that right culture.
So unfortunately, we don't see that as much as we'd like to, right? We see a lot of fluctuation, and sometimes why you see a lot of coaching change and some of those things. But I do love to see the fact that when you get a school that is built on culture, and then winning, like I say, is secondary. It comes. Winning is a byproduct of performance and culture.
Yeah, and another thing that we noticed during our visits, teams that expect to compete late into November, they aren't just relying on talent. They're relying on that culture, and that comes from leaning on experienced leaders. And that's certainly the case at Christian Brothers. The Purple Wave, Ruben likes to call them the brothers.
Yeah.
They return to senior class.
Look at that beard.
No, look at Coach McDaniel with the beard. The Purple Wave, they return to senior class that's been through some ups and downs, but they believe that experience could make a difference this fall. Senior tight end and defensive lineman William Umstead says this group has grown closer than ever.
I definitely think we bond a lot more. We're a real tight team, and yeah.
A man of few words, but I got the point, Ruben.
A real tight team? Yeah. Christian Brothers is one of those places. Now, that is a very tight-knit community. You go to school there, it's a very tight-knit situation. They've got one of the best young quarterbacks.
In Nate Brick?
Yeah, in Nate Brick. And so,
what a name.
Yeah.
I love that name.
That dude can throw the ball. He's 6'3", 6'4", somewhere in that range. He was a freshman last year, got to finally get in and start towards the back end of the season. And once he did, they were able to actually move the ball, because Christian Brothers, was primarily running that ball, running the rock for most of the season. And eventually they started to open it up whenever they were put Brick in there.
Yeah, and then, I think when it comes to Christian Brothers, they're a team that if you look at the landscape of private schools, they probably don't have the most talented team compared to a Briarcrest or the next team we'll talk about, Lausanne, but they'll really lean on that chemistry. And I think that's what makes Coach McDaniel and any squad that he coaches dangerous, because he really leans on those guys to really, like you talked about, lean on that culture. And he knows that if they do their job, that they'll have a chance to compete every day.
I would say they maybe don't have as much fanfare when it comes to some of the guys but I would say they have a lot of talent there.
They do in Brick, but compared
not
to
just in Brick, they've got some receivers and some DBs. They've got some young guys. In our 7-on-7 season during the offseason, we got to be around a lot of those kids, and man, they have some kids who can play.
Maybe it's the fanfare because they don't have offers like that.
Yes, so that's the difference. So kind of the fanfare of Briarcrest has Caden Dixon and what's the receiver's name again?
Oh, J.D. Donaldson.
Yeah, J.D. Donaldson.
And Octavius Flynn.
Yeah, so they've got these names that you kind of know, whereas Christian Brothers has dudes who can play.
Yeah.
They just maybe haven't built that name yet. You maybe just don't know their name yet. So I do think, and with them able to spread that field more this year from the beginning of the season, a lot of those guys who you didn't really get to know last year, you're going to know more about. It's hard to know if you got guys who can really go catch and make plays when all they're doing is blocking 70% of the time, right? So if they're able to actually go make plays now, I think it's going to make a difference.
Yep. Christian Brothers built on leadership, and a team that's also built on leadership is Lausanne, where the roster may be in young spots compared to Christian Brothers, but the expectations haven't changed. In fact, let's take a listen to what Coach Kevin LaCastro had to say.
And we're going to be battle tested right out of the chute with the early schedule that's really, really tough. And I think we'll find out a lot about this group in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, Ruben, when I was looking at Lausanne's schedule, I was like, we got Southwind again to open it up. Then they do get Christian Brothers. I think they got another public school. I'm blanking.
They have Houston up there, or is that Briarcrest that has Houston?
They got somebody who's like really good. I think somebody from 6A, but with Hefner, they got a shot, and they got Lawrence Britt, the wide receiver, the Mizzou commit.
Yes.
So, but one thing I noticed when talking to all these coaches, nobody's really talking about the postseason, which is what it's all about in November. They're talking about what really stood out, to them in the fall camp and establishing that foundation, that culture. And I know you say it takes the first 2 or 3 weeks when we'll know who's good, and Coach essentially said it right here. We'll figure it. They're going to be battle tested right out the gate. So
in football, probably more than any other sport, it's all about you're just winning that week. Mm-hmm. You're winning the practice, then you're winning the week. You're trying to go 1-0 every week. Yeah. And then after you've played the game and won the game or lost the game, you put it behind you and you don't worry about it anymore. And it's not till you start talking about maybe playoff seeding in the back end of the season where you maybe start thinking about, all right, projecting out, we got to win 2 of the last 3 or whatever. But if you're a football coach and you start looking at your schedule ahead, really any coach shouldn't be doing this, doesn't really do this, but most of football in particular is built this way, then you can there's too many details. You can miss a detail that you need to be on that because you're looking ahead. And so that's why football coaches never look ahead. They are just very much like in the moment, this is the week, we got to win this week, and that's all that matters.
As a coach, do you think the journey is more exciting than the destination?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because you're in the journey the memories are made in the journey, and then the destination at the end, you can celebrate together based on what everybody got to accomplish together. If your only goal is the destination, and don't get me wrong, everybody's going to start the season and say, hey, we want to compete for a state title, or we want to
host a playoff.
Yeah, we want to host a playoff game. These are our goals. Goals are one thing. Everybody should have their goals. But if we're saying if the only thing you're ever thinking about is we're going to win state and that's all we care about, then you're going to miss so much greatness in between that road. Even if you make it to state, you miss so much because you're not focused on that week to week.
I like that everyone believes they're capable of making a run. And they should. Nobody should go in and be like, yeah, we're not going to be any good. But nobody.
There's a couple teams that should probably say that.
I would hope that they don't say it when we got a microphone in their face, or else I'm going to make fun of you. But nobody's skipping the work to get there. And at the end of the day, it's about who works harder than the other one, because that's the one who holds the gold ball at the end of the season.
And there's so much movement now in high school football and in high school sports in general that it's getting a little bit like college, where you're not really going to know how good a team is until they line up. Because, we just talked about like today, like two major quarterbacks in the area that have got new homes, right? And so how do you really know how Lausanne or Briarcrest is going to be until you see them on the field against somebody? You don't really know. And that's the part about high school football that's changing, is the more movement that happens. And that's not the only Collierville got several dudes in this year. And they're
kind of the favorites in Class 6A.
So how are they going to look? We don't know till we see them play. And once you see them on the field, then you're going to say, okay, man, they're the real deal, or man, maybe it didn't pan out the way you thought it would.
So, Ruben, it feels like we've only scratched the surface. I'm excited about this high school football season. I love fall camp. Even as a former athlete, I didn't play football, but I was in the band. But I always love how fall camp sets the foundation. And me being a band member, to just kind of see that was the foundation of how our marching band was going to be, and then see like over across the field that the football team is laying the groundwork. My senior year, I was blessed that our football team won it all, won the state title, and to just kind of look at that journey we talked about from fall camp all the way to finally winning it all. I love it. I love preseason.
Yeah, I know we're about out of time for this segment, so we do want to make sure you know that there is plenty of time to watch more about back-to-school football.
Yes, don't miss our ABC 24 back-to-school football special. We'll take you inside the biggest storylines, introduce you to teams to watch, and get you ready for kickoff across the Mid-South.